everyone, and welcome back to Superboy Beyond, and we've got a bonus commentary for you this week. We will still be releasing our regular episode tomorrow as scheduled, but today, as you may have seen from the thumbnail and the title for this video, it's no surprise we're watching an episode of Batman the Animated Series. I was basically looking through for superhero media that have Halloween episodes, and despite the fact that this episode's Halloween connection, as far as I remember, is, it's kind of a stretch. Apparently, there's one scene in it, I think, where Poison Ivy does an attack, and you can see jack-o'-lanterns and stuff, so it's set during Halloween. That's the only Halloween connection this has got, but we like Batman the Animated Series, so let's watch an episode as a bonus. If this is your first time watching one of our commentaries, this is not like a typical YouTube reaction video where you're going to see clips from the actual episode and hear audio and all of that stuff. This is basically like what you would see on Patreon with the uncut commentaries. We will count you in with a 3, 2, 1 play, and as long as you hit play when we do, you'll watch our full uncut reaction to the entire episode. So get your episode ready, whether it's on DVD or Blu-ray or streaming on HBO Max. I assume it's on there, although I don't think it's called HBO Max anymore. I think it's just Max.
It's called Max.
Yeah. Terrible name. I'm sorry, Warner Brothers. Terrible name. But let's get on with this. This is season 1, episode 35. I always forget how many episodes the early seasons of this show has. 35. That's a lot.
Remember, they were doing it as a daily cartoon, so it had to have a lot.
Yeah. Anyway, this is a great episode. It's almost got him. It's one of the legendary episodes that, while I don't think a lot of people say it's one of the best episodes, it's a lot of people's favorite, including it's one of mine. So let's get on with this. 3, 2, 1, play.
I know you're not going to say it, but I'm going to. I love the opening montage sequence.
Yeah, I was just going to say, usually we try not to talk about the intro sequence, but this is literally the first time we're doing a commentary on Batman the Animated Series, so what's the harm? But no, it's just a fantastic it's basically a little short film of Batman, really. And, people that are familiar with this show know that part of the initial test animation sequence that they did to, I think it was to pitch the show or just to show what it would look like, was basically this sequence. And I think there are small changes. Maybe they put a little bit more money into it for the actual show, but you can see some of the test footage, and I would have to go back and look at both side by side to see the actual differences. Maybe someone in the comments can point them out for me.
Almost got him. Written by Paul Dini, so we know it's going to be a great episode.
I'll tell you what, people keep talking about what the DCU should, like James Gunn's DCU should do to differentiate itself from the previous attempt. Hiring someone like Paul Dini to write the Batman Brave and the Bold movie would be a step in the right direction. I don't know why people that have had endless success in the animated DC universe just never get the writing, the opportunity to write for live action. I just think it's silly. I know Kevin Smith talked about it once, where he was when he was working on Superman Lives, he tried to get some of the comic book writers and some of the writers from the animated stuff to help out. And apparently Warner Brothers' response was, no, they're comic book and animation people. They don't work in live action, no. And apparently it was just utterly refused.
And yet now we do get comic book writers to work on these movies.
Yeah. Usually as consultants, but how good would it be if they announced that, the Batman Brave and the Bold movie is going to have a screenplay written by Paul Dini? That so many comic book fans would be instantly on board for that. Especially since, his most recent and most popular Batman stuff lately has been the first 2 Arkham games. just look at how successful they were. I mean, you could say less about the third one, but I don't think Paul Dini actually had anything to do with that one, which is probably why it's not as good.
And I love the little touches that they put in there. You know, when we're going around the table just now, like for example, Two-Face when he's making his coffee, half and half.
I just love the idea that, you know, Batman's villains get together to play poker every now and then.
Well, you know, there is some camaraderie amongst them, even though they can't stand each other, obviously.
I mean, let's face it, most of the time when you have multiple Batman villains in the same story, they're not just fighting Batman, they're also fighting each other. I mean, it doesn't happen every time, but usually, let's face it, like Penguin has so many enemies. Joker clearly has so many enemies. And there's the Halloween connection. Yep, jack-o'-lanterns. That is, you know, that was good enough for me to decide this could be a fun bonus episode. I do love the animation style of the early Batman stuff. Man, I wish they hadn't changed it. I know why they did it. They wanted it to mesh more with what they did for the Superman stuff so they could do Justice League down the line, all of that stuff. I don't know.
You know, the original plan for the Superman animated series was to have it more like this.
Yeah, but it was decided that it looked too much like they were just copying Fleischer, and they didn't want to invite that comparison, so they had to make it different. I wish they just had the confidence to say, you know what, if people were going to start comparing us to Fleischer, that's a pretty damn good thing to be compared to, so who cares?
Yeah, you know the
people compared Batman to Fleischer. Why not Superman to Superman? You know.
Yeah.
So go on.
The Fleischer cartoons are you know, they're like the gold standard amongst animation.
Oh yeah. I doubt you'll ever beat them, but I mean, Batman the Animated Series, they were trying to imitate the Fleischer style to a certain extent. Like you see it a lot in the making of documentaries. You see it in the early concept art. They were trying to do Fleischer. So when it came to doing Superman, I wish that they just kind of stuck with it. But I mean, everybody knows, like, you know, if you've been watching our channel for a while, you know my thoughts on Superman the Animated Series. I do think it's a very good show. I'm not in love with the animation / graphic style of it.
Yeah,
it's just not my thing.
If they had gone with this, you know, this style, it probably would have been a lot better, I guess, in your eyes.
In my eyes, yeah. I mean, some people might say that would make it worse. So I know that it is just a personal preference thing, but there you go.
Oh, and this is such a great moment in here, the Two-Face story.
Mm.
And you got to give props to Richard Mall for his portrayal of Two-Face.
Yeah, I've always liked his performance there. Because it is a difficult part. I mean, you've got to be able to speak as Harvey as well, you know?
Yeah, and, you know, a lot of people at this time, I think they were still coming off the whole idea of him as Bull from Night Court, you know, and this just proves how underrated as an actor he was considered up until this moment, because he was so great.
Yeah, I never really watched Night Court, so I couldn't even tell you like what character he was, but I think I know. Is he the big sort of scary guy?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I know who that is then. From other things, but yeah, I know who that is. He's great. And I know I bring this show up a lot, but he was in an episode of Sabrina the Teenage Witch as well, and he was very good in it. He played a drill instructor. He was very, very good.
Hey, when you want a big, scary-looking actor, you go with either Ron Perlman or Richard Mall.
Yeah. Richard Mall, if it's a sitcom, which this was.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not the focus of this scene particularly, but I don't know. I always love when stuff with Batman contains giant coins, just because of the old comic book connection.
And it's funny. This is their way of actually doing that story with the giant penny.
Yeah.
Because as we'll find out in a few moments.
Does one of the other stories, it's been a while since I've seen this episode, but does one of the other stories contain a robot T-Rex?
No. The only robot T-Rex I know of is the one from Superman, the animated series.
Fair enough. That's just something I always liked in the Batcave, just a giant T-Rex. Especially since it's stuck around for so long that most people reading probably had no idea where it even came from. It's just, no, it's the Batcave. Of course there's a dinosaur. One of the things I never liked about the update to the graphic style is just the fact that they redesigned so many of the villains, and I don't think the villains ever looked quite as good as they did here. I know they, with characters like Penguin, they were trying to get away from Batman Returns a little bit, just because that film had kind of a reputation among parents. We all know about the McDonald's fiasco that happened.
Yeah. And in the case of Penguin, that's the one design that actually, redesign that they did that worked.
It worked, but I still prefer this one. Because I liked that the animated series looked vaguely like it could have been part of the Burton universe.
Yep. And Paul Williams, you can't say anything bad about his version of the Penguin.
And it's funny because these days, for some reason, like, until the movie The Batman, people just seem to really love the whole British Penguin idea. Like, right. I think it's because I think he'd appeared in the Arkham games and he had a British accent. I can't remember if he had a British accent in any of the previous animated shows.
Right.
But the Arkham version of Penguin, like, people loved that voice so much that it was genuinely quite strange when the Batman came out and suddenly he was American again. But I don't know. I like the fact that his accent changes depending on the source material or the adaptation.
Yeah, and while Paul Williams is not doing a British accent here, he's doing a very proper. Very proper.
It's upper class. He's the Oswald Cobblepot. He's slightly upper class, but yeah. But I mean, when you look at him, you look at his hands and the way he's, just the way he's drawn. Even stuff like his hair, you can tell it's very much based on the DeVito Penguin.
Yes,
but softened since children are watching.
And I think this is one of the few episodes where Kevin Conroy has almost no dialogue or very little dialogue.
Yeah. Sorry about the siren noise going on. I assume you can hear it.
I did it. It doesn't bother me.
Hopefully, it won't bother the audience too much. It seems to have stopped now. But yeah, I mean, this is one of the episodes where he has the least to say because I guess it's not really Batman's story this time. You know, we don't even know that he's been there the entire time until the twist at the end.
Yep.
And being from the villain point of view as well, I mean, part of Batman's intimidation technique is that he doesn't say very much, you know. It's not like he's silent, but he chooses his words carefully and says as little as possible. Mostly because he doesn't want to waste time, I suppose.
I loved Kevin Conroy's Batman. I mean, he was so iconic.
Yeah, just unparalleled. The unfortunate thing, I don't think any voice actor is going to surpass him now. It's everyone is going to be compared to him. I guess it's like Christopher Reeve as Superman. You know, it's very hard. It's hard for any other actor to surpass because they've become iconic. It's you know, even if technically they give a better performance in the future, they're not Kevin Conroy. They're not Christopher Reeve. There is something sad about that, but at the same time, I mean, well done to Kevin Conroy because what a brilliant performance. Just the definitive Batman.
Yeah, and just listening to the story that he wrote for the DC Pride book, where he talked how he became Batman.
Mm.
You know, I mean, it's so heartbreaking what he went through for his entire life, and then what he drew upon using that to bring the voice out. I mean,
I've not read that, but I've heard bits and pieces of it because, like, I think he was on an episode of Kevin Smith's podcast years ago, and he talked a bit about that. It might have been around the time that book was releasing. It was probably part of the promotion for it. Thinking about it, but yeah. I mean, it says a lot though that he was so good in this that he's not just the definitive cartoon Batman, he's the definitive Batman. Like, there's people, if you was to make a list and put all the live action actors on it, people would say, well, you've got to put Conroy on it. Technically, he was in live action once on the CW. Not really going to count that, but it's enough that he should count now. And that automatically means that he's the best.
Yep. And let us not forget Mark Hamill as the Joker.
It's sad that he's never going to play the role again, but I understand his reasons.
Yep. And I love how, you know, this is very film noir-ish, not and Art Deco in the designs. But
I am noticing
the thing I'm pointing out is
the
black and white
colorization.
TVs. Yeah, black and white TVs in the modern era.
Yeah. That was part of, you know, the whole thing with Batman. It's very I guess it's a thing with DC in general. Like, the cities in the DC universe tend to exist in their own separate time periods. Like, Metropolis is the city of tomorrow. So sometimes Metropolis has like super technology. Batman is almost like it's a window of the past, where even shows like Gotham in recent years, like, it's all set in present day, but there's only like old looking CRT televisions everywhere. Like, I don't think you ever see a modern flat screen in that show. And, you know, I wouldn't say Gotham's one of my favorite shows, but I do think it did some things very, very well. And I think the whole stylistic look of Gotham is something that show did just brilliantly.
Yeah. And you got to remember that a lot of that was because of Tim Burton's two films.
Yeah.
And this.
And you can even take some inspiration from the first, at least Batman Forever. But I think Batman and Robin went a bit too far with it. But I quite like all the neon and stuff like that with the Batman Forever Gotham as well. And, the Batman recently has a lot of neon as well. It's a very sort of Blade Runner-esque Gotham. And
Yeah.
I think it works really well.
And kudos should be given to actress Adrienne Barbeau for her role as Selena Kyle.
One of the best. But she's a great actress anyway, I don't think I've ever seen her give a bad performance. Although I haven't seen her in very much, I must admit. I love that. Such a clever use of directing.
Mm.
Oh, I love it. They've just been surrounded by cops the entire time. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Which is funny, though, because the episode opened with the villains talking and you could see Croc in the background beating people up in the background. I wonder if that was him just getting rid of all the actual criminals that were there so he could replace them. Maybe that was part of it.
Yep.
Or maybe he was just selling the cover. He was just like, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to beat you up, Bullock. Would explain why he hates Batman so much.
But just that reveal.
I always forget just how understated Harley's voice is early on. It got a little bit higher pitched later on. I guess it's the difference between, what's her name, Arlene Sorkin and Tara Strong. Their versions of Harley are slightly different. Strong's Harley is a little higher pitched, a little bit more over the top. I do think I prefer Strong's version, but I don't know. Sorkin's version works very well for me.
Yeah, and Sorkin did sort of go a little bit high pitched as the series went on. A little bit, not much.
Maybe it was just, as they developed the characters. Because, let's face it, at first she was just designed to be, one of Joker's henchmen. She wasn't, I don't think she even had a name early on. She was just there.
Yeah.
At least in the first episode, I think.
What was the first episode that she appeared in?
I couldn't tell you. It's been too long.
Joker's Favor.
Right. I think in that she's just referred to as henchman or henchwoman or something. I don't know. If anyone knows the actual story, if you can fill in some of the details, let us know in the comments.
And let's not forget Diane Pershing as Poison Ivy.
Very, very
such
good.
Such a fantastic voice actress. She's one of the few actual established voice actors who was on this show.
Yeah, and we've got to, give a shout out to Andrea. Is it Andrea Romano or Romero?
Yes.
Like, she cast the entire show, and I can't say enough about like how well this show was cast. And I know characters, were replaced over time. Obviously, we all know the Tim Curry Joker story, where like some people say that it just wasn't working, others say that his version of Joker was just too scary. But I mean, Hamill's version was pretty scary at times, so who knows? Who knows? Maybe it just wasn't working. But
well, I tend to think that the version of the story where he kept hacking up a lung every few seconds while he's trying to deliver the lines is probably closer to the truth.
Yeah. Maybe they just didn't want to risk injuring his vocal cords. Maybe they just thought it's too much work. We need to find someone that can make it sound a little bit more effortless.
Yeah.
And let's face it, Tim Curry is an excellent voice actor. He would have been a fantastic Joker. Maybe it was just the wrong time.
Yeah. But
maybe a few years later he would be better.
They actually have one full episode recorded with his voice in the vault, and that's Christmas with the Joker.
I wish they would release that.
Yeah, I would love to hear that version of the Joker. Put it on a Blu-ray as a bonus.
Yeah.
Let's hear the original audio for it.
I will never understand why studios like Warner Brothers, when they finally remastered this show for Blu-ray and put it out, why wouldn't they include stuff like that in the bonus features? Like, it wouldn't even have to be particularly good quality. Like, I wouldn't care if that version of the episode doesn't look any better than, like, say, VHS quality. It doesn't have to be polished because it wasn't a finished episode anyway. Yeah. I mean, theoretically, they could just take the version of the episode they've already remastered and just stick in the other audio track or something. But in that case, how many audio options do you typically get on Blu-ray? You have all the different surround sound options, all the different Dolby settings and stuff, audio commentaries. Why couldn't you just include one extra audio track on that episode that just lets you swap to the other Joker voice just to see how it is? I don't think it would even take up very much space on the disc.
Yeah, I agree with you on that, Tom. I really think that Warner Brothers should, bust it out of the vault. Just add his vocalizations in instead of Mark Hamill's. There's probably ways to remove Mark Hamill and put Tim Curry in, just so we as fans can just hear what was originally intended.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it, all they would have to do is just take the audio track from the previous version and include it as an option, because I know from the story from when they hired Mark Hamill, he said how difficult it was recording that first episode because he literally had to act saying the words in the exact right timing so that it could fit the animation, because the animation had all been done to Tim Curry's performance. So he had to match the timing exactly, just so all the mouth movements and stuff wouldn't be out of sync. So it wouldn't be that difficult. Like, if they were to send me just the audio track, I could do it myself. It would only take like 5-10 minutes at most. But
and it's not like it's not going to make them money if they release it.
They could release it as just a special one release Blu-ray or something, just a single disc. It's got that episode as both versions and some bonus features. That's all it would need to be, because they've already released the entire rest of the show on Blu-ray. So, how many people are actually going to want to buy the entire box set all over again? They probably make more money just releasing it on its own. I mean, and there were some issues with the Blu-ray remaster for this show, and I know the Superman animated series has the same thing, and I know that the Fleischer Blu-ray, apparently there's a ton of problems with the Fleischer remastered Blu-ray.
I got the Fleischer Blu-ray, and I didn't have any problems. The only issue I had, and this is really, it's really that disclaimer that they put up in front of every single episode, apologizing for the racist stuff in there.
I don't know why they have to put it at the beginning of every episode, considering that usually you get like disclaimers and stuff on Blu-rays before even just the main menu shows up before even you get to that point. There's usually a disclaimer. Just put it there. That way, every time someone puts in the disc, they see the disclaimer, but then they can just watch the episodes uninterrupted. They've done their job. You know, I get why they have to do it. They did the same thing with some of the old Looney Tunes cartoons as well, because let's face it, some of the early Looney Tunes stuff is pretty damn offensive at times.
Yeah.
But you know, I don't think it was needed at the beginning of every episode, because not every episode even, you know, has offensive material in it.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
a few episodes, sure, but
yeah, Jungle Drums definitely.
Yeah.
Japateurs definitely.
Yeah. I mean, that one's basically just straight up propaganda, isn't it? Really.
And I think I think to a certain extent the underground world.
I can't even remember what happens in that one, to be honest.
That's the bird. That's the bird people who live inside the mountain, and it's essentially it's essentially kind of a very racist in that they're almost portrayed as Native Americans and the electric earthquake. That's also racist because the villain is Native American.
Yeah.
So out of 13, 14, or was it 17 episodes? There's
something like that. Between the original Fleischer and then the other studio. Was it famous cartoons or something?
It was still the same studio. It's just Max took his name off of it. His brother Dave was doing all the work.
Oh, that's fine then. That's why the quality didn't drop particularly. But yeah, as you say, out of 20 odd episodes, maybe 4 have offensive material. Just put the disclaimer before those episodes, you know? I don't see why you'd need it. I mean, what's the one where he's fighting the giant robot? Is that the first episode? Is it like Mechanical Monsters or something?
The Mechanical Monsters, yeah.
Yeah, I can't think of anything offensive in that one, although granted it's been a while. So you wouldn't need it on that one. Yeah, it's silly. But apparently, the Blu-rays, there's problems with like the audio options aren't great. Like there's people that want the original version of the sound mixes for some of this stuff, and a lot of the time they're just not including those things.
Yeah,
I know there's some visual problems where the remastering process, it just doesn't look particularly great at times. Just little things that they could have fixed if they'd taken a little bit more time, but Warner Archive didn't get to do this remaster. It was taken over and done by the main Warner Brothers home media line, and they have a bit of a reputation for cutting corners and rushing things out without it being ready. So who knows if they released? I'm getting really off topic, but I'm trying to get back to it. Now. But the fact that there are problems with some of these animated shows, I know the Superman animated series Blu-ray. I don't know if it's the Blu-ray actually, but I know when it was first put on HBO Max, where they'd actually just put if there was like a screen or something that needed to be seen in the episode, typically they just put like a green box and chroma key it out so they could stick something else there later for compositing. Apparently they just forgot to do that in a bunch of episodes on HBO Max when they first put it up there. So there's like episodes where like Lex Luthor's standing in front of his window looking out onto Metropolis, and Metropolis isn't there. He's looking out his window into just green. And so maybe if some of those things were still included on the Blu-ray, it's a good reason to buy the set again. But at the same time, if you paid out your money for it in the first place, I would be kind of wary about giving Warner Brothers anything more. I'd be like, I've paid for it once. Can you not just, replace the set I've already got, please? Because it's broken as fuck.
Yeah, like what they did with the box set of the Superman films in that big silver box. There was a problem with one of the discs for Superman 3, and basically what they did was, if you bought the set, send us the disc, to this address. They gave it an address, and I think it was on the Superman homepage where you got the information.
Probably most
Yeah,
things for Superman are that's the big one.
yeah, you contact them. They'll send you a new disc. You just put the old disc in and send it back.
It's how it should, it's how it should be. The version of Superman on Blu-ray I have is it's the box set they released just before the silver one. It's the blue version that's got like twice as many bonus features. I don't know why anybody would buy the silver version, considering it was basically the same price. But why did you already own the blue version though?
I did, and then I got, once.
Why would you buy the silver, considering it's just the same box set but with less stuff?
Well, actually, the silver box set actually had more.
Maybe it was different in the UK, but here it's like the blue version has like twice as much stuff because it's got all the Superman Returns bonus features as well, whereas the silver version didn't include half the Superman Returns stuff. Over here, maybe it's different.
The first DVD release of Superman of the Superman set, 1 and 2 had bonus features. 3 had a trailer and maybe a commentary. 4 had nothing. And then when they put out the Ultimate Edition that was in the big silver box, they had everything. Everything that was on the original Superman set, but more.
Yeah, this is the version I've got. It's a deluxe 8-disc set with 20 hours of bonus features, including all the Fly Show animations. They're all on here. But Superman 2, it's got the Richard Donner cut as well. The Superman 3, it's got commentary, it's got the making of, it's got some deleted scenes and a trailer. And 4 has commentary, a making of, more deleted scenes and a trailer as well. So that's not too bad. But yeah, then I've got disc 8, which has got a whole load of documentaries. It's got the Super Pup pilot. Yeah. Got all the animated Fleischer stuff. But I don't know, maybe the silver version in the US is the opposite way round because I think the silver one didn't include half.
The silver version was a DVD set, and then that was just the Blu-ray version of the silver set.
There is this, but then there's another Blu-ray version that looks identical, except all the blue is turned silver in the UK. And it's basically the same thing, but they just don't include half the stuff.
Yeah.
So maybe that's a British exclusive release.
Why
they would give us an inferior product, I don't know. Apparently people bought it though, because I do see it secondhand occasionally in shops.
Maybe that's why you're seeing it secondhand in the shops.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen this version secondhand in the shops. I mean, I bought this secondhand. But it's got all the Fleischer / Famous Studios stuff. It's got Superman and the Mole Men is on here.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's going to be easier when we do a commentary on it, isn't it? I didn't know I had it. Unless it's just the trailer. I hope it's the full thing. It's been a long time since I've seen Superman and the Mole Men. But
I actually, from the Movies Unlimited website, I actually bought a single disc version of Superman and the Mole Men, and it was a legally released version. It wasn't like a bootleg.
Oh yeah, they released it a while ago. Yeah. I don't think they put much money into it though, because I seem to remember even just the DVD cover didn't look particularly good. But
it was meh. But it's easier to break that one out than it is to break out the box set. True.
When we do a commentary on it, I'll probably just have to rip it for myself and just save it to my desktop, just so when it comes time, I can just click it. But anyway, we're really getting off topic now. But I mean, Batman the Animated Series, we were kind of off topic from the beginning. Really, really great episode, though. I mean, Kevin Conroy, Adrienne Barbeau, Mark Hamill, Aaron Kinnaid, Richard Mole, Diane Pershing, Arlene Sorkin, and Paul Williams. Just brilliant voices.
And, there's an interesting thing about Diane Pershing that, kind of does tie into Batman the Animated Series.
Mm-hmm.
The actor who played the voice of Robin was Lauren Lester. She and Lauren Lester had worked together before Batman the Animated Series on an animated series.
Please tell me it was something like Super Friends or something like that.
Sort of, but not quite. It was Defenders of the Earth with Flash Gordon, the Phantom, and Mandrake the Magician.
Was that an animated show? Because
yep, it was an animated.
I'll be honest. Show. I think I watched some Flash Gordon animated stuff when I was a kid, but I remember nothing about it.
Well, here's the funny part about it. Okay. Filmation Studios did a Flash Gordon series in the late 70s, very early 80s. And Diane Pershing was the voice of Dale Arden. When Defenders of the Earth, Defenders of the Earth was made, Lauren Lester is the voice of Flash and Dale's son, Rick. And Diane Pershing was the voice of Dale in the first episode. And then there's a computer system that's based on her brain called Dynac X. And she was the voice of that as well.
That's cool. Yeah. It's funny. I mean, Flash Gordon, all those characters, it was never really my thing. But I do remember, I think I watched an episode or two of it just purely because I think it's what used to come on just before Johnny Quest when I was a kid. So I think I always caught the end of one of the Flash Gordon animated shows just purely because I was waiting for Johnny Quest to come on. And the sad thing is, I don't even think I was watching the good Johnny Quest show. I think I was watching the crap version, like the Further Adventures of Johnny Quest version that came out years later and everybody hated. So it's not even like I was waiting to watch a good show. I was watching the crap sequel series. The crap revival.
It doesn't matter if it was a quote-unquote crap revival. As long as you enjoyed it, that's all that matters.
Yeah. I mean, I liked Erie, Indiana. I don't know if you ever watched that. But
never watched it, but I knew about it.
Really great show. It's basically like a kid's sort of Twin Peaks X-Files type thing. It's really, really entertaining show, one of the best ever. But they did a sequel series like 10 years later because Joe Dante realized how much money the one season that he made of his show was doing. So I think he sold the rights and another studio took over. I think it was called Erie, Indiana, The Other Dimension. And it was... Right. You try watching it now, it is utter crap. It is one of the absolute worst sequel series I've ever seen. But as a kid, I loved it, It was just more Erie, Indiana. Like, okay, it didn't have the same actors because, like, actors like, I think his name was Ezri Katz played the main guy in it. Like, he was in a bunch of things. I think for a while they thought he was going to be the next, like, big teen actor for a while. I don't know why. Maybe it was just because of Erie, Indiana. But, yeah, he wasn't in it. It was different actors, and they weren't anywhere near as good, but it was fine, It's probably the same way people felt when they watched Star Trek, the animated series. It's, it may not be live action Star Trek, but at least it's Star Trek.
Yeah.
So it was good enough. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching. We'll probably do a bonus episode in a second where we'll probably watch Star Trek, the animated series, since I just mentioned it there. We may as well just go on to do that. So watch out for that either next week or the week after, whenever the next bonus one comes out. Yep. Be sure to tune in again next time. Goodbye.
Viacom.